Get a couple guests to talk about this, and that would include distinguished university professor at Touro University, Thane Rosenbaum, as well as counsel at the National Legal and Policy Center, Paul Kaminer. Paul, let me start off with the thing. Again, I want to make sure I'm reading this right and not misunderstanding. On May 10, 2022, now informed plaintiff, the former president, they would proceed with providing the FBI access to the records in question as requested by the incumbent president. Is that unusual, or is that new information? It sounds like, I mean, at this point, would the president be aware that they were trying to get these documents back? I mean, it had been going on for a number of months, and that the office of the president, of course, would want these documents back. How do you read that?
Well, I think there's a big question here. It does look like there was some pre-knowledge by the White House and the executive branch on the raid that did take place in August. But interestingly, if this was so important to get these documents back, we know that Merrick Garland waited weeks in order to ask for a search warrant. So it seems to me like they're now saying, oh, well, these are classified documents, et cetera. It's very important. And yet it turned out that there was no rush to get these. And the judge rightly said, look, time out here. Let's get a special master to go through this. You've taken long enough already. There's no harm going to be done. She is allowing the National Security Branch to go through some of these documents in the meantime. But in terms of the special master, it's the government's argument that, oh, it's a waste of time. We already did it. Nothing to see here, folks, which is ridiculous. In fact, the judge points out a very important ruling or a maxim of the law that justice should not only be done, but appear to be done. And that's important for our jurisprudence. Yeah. And I think the judge did a good job in her 24-page opinion, which I'm still going through.
Yeah. Thane, have you had a chance to look at it? What's your assessment, sir?
I have, Bob. One of the things I think is interesting is that it completely devastates the government's argument that the investigation against this president is undertaken as if he was any other American, because she clearly does not agree with that. She says that the stigma and the reputational harm to a former president of the United States to have his personal effects, and she includes medical documents and tax records. Frankly, Bob, I hadn't heard that before. I had not heard that medical documents or tax records were involved. We know from last week clothes were involved. So she's saying, you got to be kidding. She uses the words, it's a league of its own. Great language, right? She said, this kind of a raid is not like the raid of any other American. This is in a league of its own. And she points out that, there's over 10,000 pages of documents here. And so she's essentially saying, I'm not going to go through it. Right. Someone else is going to have to go through this. And to claim that this was a narrowly scoped search is not correct. So she takes a very strong position that this was, in fact, unprecedented, and that's why you should have a special master going page by page.
Well, Paul, one of the things that I've heard about having personal effects along with these documents that the president, according to the DOJ, should not have had, is that it ties him to those documents. Like, they weren't your passports, they weren't Thane's, they weren't mine. So that's one of the ways to tie in. So feel free to address that. I don't know if you feel like that's legitimate. But other than that, to a lot of people, like you're saying, you need to have the appearance of justice, because it certainly looks like a fishing expedition when you do have all this stuff, including clothing, which is not a document.
Exactly. It is a fishing expedition. They went through Melania's wardrobe. They went through his son Barron's dresser and room. They were clearly fishing. And yes, there were, they claimed they were things that were tied up with some of the documents that they found, but that doesn't necessarily excuse them from the kind of raid that they did take. Right. It should have been more tailored. And I think the judge is right here saying, hey, look, let's have a special master. But more importantly, this is basically a problem with the National Archives that started this whole thing, and that's not a criminal statute. And if they're going to do any prosecution here, they better look at what they did with General Petraeus, who was the CIA director under Obama, who actually had CIA secret documents at home with names of agents. And he was giving it to his lover who was writing a biography. And what happened to him? Misdemeanor, slap on the wrist, have a nice day. Okay. They did the same thing with Sandy Berger. So, it seems that they're really making this.
Well, Sandy Berger was convicted. He had put these documents in his socks and in his pockets.
Right.
And he was
It was a misdemeanor, no fine, no jail time.
Fair enough.
So that's to show you how they're trying to overblow this matter here.
Wish we had
one more thing.
Wish we had longer thing. I'm sorry. I'll have to go to class tomorrow after all to discuss it more. Paul Kamenar, Thane Rosenbaum, thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, John McAfee.